Welcome to where the magic happens.
Yeah.
That was like, all right. Yeah, no, thank you all for being here. You could be somewhere else, but you're not. You choose to be here and work on your craft, right? I think Will and I, we are pretty active in the space, and what we wanted to do was just kind of put something. Is that feedback? What I hear back there? Static? What we wanted to, it's not gonna work. What we wanted to do was just put something back out there, right? Like there's certain things that are happening right now in the market that we need to shift into. One of the questions that I get all the time from students is, how are you structuring your business? How are you automating? How are you delegating? That kind of stuff. So I'm gonna break down my business structure. I'm gonna break down some KPIs and things to be aware of going forward for the months to come. The next 6 months are gonna be key. I think there's gonna be a lot of great positioning to be done if you want to really capitalize on the stuff that's coming. And we have people in the lending industry here that know exactly what I'm talking about right there. I think it's treacherous waters to say the least, but it's going to be full of opportunity if we know how to play it right? So we're going to do our best tonight just to kind of paint a bit, picture of what we're going through right now. He's seeing stuff on the East Coast. He's based out of Fort Lauderdale. He did 137 deals last year, over $7 million in wholesale and fix and flip and revenue, and so he's absolutely crushing it, right? He's exposed to all that stuff. We have the west side of the action here, so we kind of we have the ability to look at an overall picture of everything, which I think is really, really cool. So without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend Will Dennis. He flew in on his own dime to really, put together this presentation and host it alongside with me, and just make some really cool shit happen. As far as putting information out there, it's not going to be super formal. We're going to go over three different sessions, this is going to be kind of like a role play, right? It's a back and forth. If you guys have questions that we're going through the process, jump in. Ask questions. We have water in there. We didn't really do a lot of, when it came to like dinner and all that stuff. It's just, kind of like an informal event. But if you guys have, the bathroom is going to be down the hall, and anything as we're going through the process, feel free, right? It's kind of like, pretty laid back, type of setup here. So, Will, do you want to make an introduction?
Sure. So thank you for having me. First of all, I did fly out here from Fort Lauderdale. Your weather's beautiful, so it's very nice. Perfect timing. Yeah. So I'm based out of South Florida. I'll be talking tonight a little bit of background on myself. I'll give some more details, where I came from, where I am today, novations, how to pivot in this market, what to do. We do quite a bit of novations in our business. We were talking about that last night. What we're currently doing to pivot in today's market, because it's very different than what it was 6 months ago, as I'm sure everyone in this group knows, and how we're going to change our marketing, our strategies, our dispo, and what I believe, him and I believe, is going to come within the next year, right? Because I firmly believe that there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity in 2023, considering the amount of chaos that there is in this market right now. So a lot of people,
crazy.
Yeah. There's a difference between news and noise. There's so much more noise than there is news right now. And everybody's a little bit frantic. Rates have gone up. It's pretty crazy. We printed a shit ton of money. It's logical that we're in inflation right now. I don't know why everybody's so shocked by it. We printed $7 trillion worth of money. It's logical, But there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people like this that are spending a Friday night here, right? We could all be anywhere with family, friends, whatever, relaxing. I could be in Fort Lauderdale, but we're here. So that's the point, right? That's the extra step to hone in your craft, right? That's the kind of work that it's going to take. And there's going to be the one good thing that I always say to him is there's so many people that are not going to be in this business come 2023, right? There's a lot of people that are already out of this business, and a lot of people that are already phasing out, right? Because they can't withstand it. The last 2 years, let's not kid ourselves, guys. It's been a cakewalk, okay? Anything that you got under contract was sold. It was a joke. Nobody was really working in the last 2 years, right? So the party's over, and now you actually have to learn how to do this business and how to underwrite and how to negotiate on the A to B side, negotiate on the B to C side, creatively sell deals, right? Sub twos, novations, etc. You definitely, one thing I want to hone in tonight is that you cannot be a one-trick pony. going into this market in 2023. If you are walking around, and I don't care if you're new, it's even better if you're new, because learn it the right way, right? Learn a full tool belt as you're new, right? Learn novations, learn fix and flips. Well, not really fix and flips. Let's go back to novations, wholesales, sub twos, right? How to do that, how to use the MLS. I don't know what Arizona's laws are because I don't do business here, but I am going to touch on doing things the right way on some contracts and clauses on how to leverage the MLS and how to get maximum exposure for your deals. So I appreciate you guys having me, and I'm excited to get into it.
So yeah, in the next couple of hours, we're going to talk about leads, we're going to talk about business structure, we're going to talk about strategy. We're going to do a whole session on mindset, which is, I mean, it's something that we're kind of on the fence about doing, but it's really important, I think. Like it's one of the biggest things, especially now, right? When things are shitty, it's easy to get in that hole, in that self-doubt and all that stuff. So I'm excited about that one. With that being said, let's get a feel for the room. Who's actively doing deals right now? Yeah? Okay, who's done more than 3 deals, wholesale or fix and flip? Who hasn't done any deals at all? All right, perfect.
Welcome.
Cool. Well, we're
You're
gonna.
in the right room.
You're in the right room.
Good for you.
Yeah. What's up? All right. Any questions before we get started? No, nothing. We all good? All right.
Can we make?
Do you have questions?
I have a question. I'm allowed to ask, but I'm up here. Let's just make this as interactive as possible throughout the, obviously we have presentations and we're going to do all that. He's amazing at PowerPoint. Full disclosure, I suck at PowerPoint. My PowerPoint is at 7th grade level at best. But my content is going to be great. All right. I'm actually going to deliver stuff that's in my real business and things that are really okay. I'm a pretty straight shooter, so is he. But we'd like to have some interaction. If you have any questions, or if anything you don't understand, or you feel like, hey, that went right over my head, feel free to stop us and we can hone in on anything. That's the whole. We got like 3-4 hours here, so.
No question is too basic, right? As we go through the process.
No, not at all. Please feel free.
So dig in, dive in, and let's get started. The first session, again, one of the things I want to get the pragmatic stuff, the nuts and bolts, kind of out of the way. One of the biggest questions that happen, everybody hears about wholesale, right? And you start wholesaling, and it kind of becomes this thing that's kind of can be collected from a bunch of different pieces, and it's all over the board. There's not a lot of clarity as to what the wholesaling business looks like. I mean, structurally, right? If you go to a restaurant, you have chefs, you have the waiters, and you know the roles and responsibilities. When it comes to wholesale, everybody's doing everything, right? Especially because the entry to barrier is so low. Usually we have to wear all the hats. I know I started wholesaling by myself, so I was wearing all the hats. But even then, it's important to understand the flow of the wholesale business, the flow of a transaction, right? Like what part of the process are we in? Because every single deal has a life to it. Okay, and you got to understand what stage of the business you're in, so you can come in and improve it. When you hire, so you can hire right, and you can plug in your cold callers. One thing that kills me, man, is to see top-notch acquisition guys. The snipers, the people who know how to negotiate. They start working at a company, and then they have them cold calling, generating their own leads. I think it's a waste of talent, because people get burned out, they get fed up, they get, if you're just dialing the phones, but you're an acquisitions guy that knows how to close, you should be closing, not sourcing deals. So it's stuff like that. I think it's important to keep in mind. What I'm going to break down is how I structure my model. But this is the same thing that I coach my students. The wholesaling process has 6 stages. The first one is sourcing the deals. Source the deals. That's, we go in, that's where the cold callers live. That's where, we send text messaging campaigns. We're reaching out on bandit signs, whatever your marketing, strategy is, it's going to be on that sourcing stage. And it's a foundation of the whole thing. All right. The next thing is going to be the conversion stage. This is where we pre-qualify the leads. Okay, so you source the leads, and you want to pre-qualify because you don't want to send everything. Like, for example, if you're a solo operation, right? You understand that you have to talk to 1,000 people, and then maybe 1,000 of those are going to be interested in having a further conversation, right? So now you dial that list from 1,000 to 100. but you're not going to run analysis. You're not going to spend, a shit ton of time running, the numbers for every single one of those 100 properties. You still want to pre-qualify and see like who's actually the prospect, right? So I like to break it down. Again, even if you're a solo operation, you can do this. And it's actually a very, very smart practice because you can follow up on the leads that are actually hot. The hot leads don't get, lost in the wilderness of everything that you're doing. And then you pre-qualify, the hotter follow-ups. So first stage is sourcing, second stage is converting, which is pre-qualification. The third is acquisitions, right? Acquire. And of course, this is where you start, going deeper into the discovery of the problem. You start negotiating, the property. You run deeper analysis on type of stuff. And the picture is gonna get a lot clearer. I just wanna kind of create an overview right now. After acquisitions, you go to this way. You lock the deal, you get that signature, and then we take the paperwork and we send it over. In my case, Rene handles the disposition department, right? So he handles. Once we get a signature there, he takes it from there. He starts coordinating the title and doing the whole, dispositions process. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in that space.
Right now, that's the most important part of your business, by the way.
Yeah.
Right now in this market, it used to be the other way around. Disposition was not as important. Acquisition was everything because if you could acquire a deal, chances were you're going to sell it. Mm-hmm. Right now, everybody understands that everything's flopped, right? You're picking up a bunch of shit and you can't sell it. That's the problem that we're in. Right? Agree?
Yep.
Yes.
He's going right now. I'm just going right now.
He's not taking notes.
There you go.
So yeah, it used to be a lot easier, like I said, to sell a property, sell a contract, sell a vested interest. But it's not. Like it's actually one of the things that we had to do the first shifts on. This is months ago. We started to implement acquisition strategies and sourcing strategies on the disposition side. You're actually prospecting for buyers. Like people are not coming, in flocks and buying your contracts anymore. It's just one of those shifts, right? That needs to take place. Now, this is usually where the buck stops when it comes to wholesale. People source a lead, they'll convert it somehow, some way, they'll lock it up, and then display, right? And then they go back to step one. But if you miss the last two steps of it, or the last two stages, I think you're going to be caught in that hamster wheel. That's why you see people wholesaling for 10, 15 years, and they're still in the hustle. They're still doing everything themselves. The shift that we have to be more organized when it comes to wholesale. We have to understand that it's a business, right? I love saying that hustling is season. It's not a business strategy. It's gonna get you places, but you have to start thinking like that entrepreneur and creating systems and processes, not just with CRMs and whatnot, but also ask how are you actually running the business, even if you're a one-person business, right? How are you actually running that? So stage 5 is gonna be measuring. This is where we track KPIs. We start looking at, okay, how many calls did I make last week? How many calls did my team make last week? And, responses, where are my marketing dollars going to? And, that sort of thing. So you need to measure, you need to track. I'll give you guys some examples of KPIs to follow. And then the last one, if you have all that data, but you're not doing anything with it, what's the use, right? So you have to improve. You got to have intentional improvement sessions after every single deal. We're actually doing this on a regular basis, me and man. Where did we leave money on the table? Okay, what can we do to improve the next deal that comes along? Did we mess up something? And we did, like during the process of it. Is it important enough to make it a protocol to not do that same mistake on the following deals? One of the big ones that we just had, Rene, was a tenant, right? Tenant issue. You remember that? They were supposed.
Which one of them all?
Yeah, right. So they were supposed to be out. The seller was going to give him a 30-day notice. They didn't give him a 30-day notice. Comes close of escrow time. The tenant is like, "What? I'm going where?" So we dropped the ball there. The tenant, the seller was supposed to do it, but we dropped the ball because we didn't support them. Right? We didn't come in and then we helped. We didn't, hold them accountable for the 30-day notice. It just became this cluster thing. That we ended up working through it, but we had to do cash for keys. We had to get super creative. We took the internet just to get the deal done and that sort of thing. Like you take situations like that, and then you plug them into your process. Now we have a standard operating procedure. Is okay, cool. Is there's a tenant? Yes. 30-day notice is going to happen? Okay, cool. We're going to give them this letter, right? So the sellers still, do their thing with them. But, we stay in touch. We stay in the loop. Okay, what's going on? Are the sellers out? Or the tenants out? Is there anything that we can come in and do to help you, through the process as well? Like what's going on, right? So it's stuff like that that happens during the improvement process. Now, the stages of the wholesale business, if you look, and this is actually pretty, I've used that same model in the brokerage. I own a brokerage as well, I have agents. And it's the same model. We have to source leads, we have to pre-qualify, the listings, the sellers and all that stuff. We acquire the contracts, we acquire the buyers, we acquire, and we have to just, so it's the same process. But when you see it like that, and you start thinking actions, you start thinking, okay, like I gotta get an employee to help me, with this. I gotta go hire a VA. You understand that if you plug in a VA, like they're gonna be in the sourcing area or the conversion areas, right? Now you start to really have the ability to see where they sit, which is who has VAs and employees working for them? VAs. What are they doing for you? If you don't mind me asking.
Transaction coordination, lead management.
Lead management.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Texting.
Do you have separate VAs doing that kind of stuff, or are they all like one separate. Does everything?
Separate.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's important. Like we see commingling. We see a lot of that, right? I have a cold caller. The cold caller is also doing, TC, and then they, they also help me out with, some, office stuff here and there and whatnot. Like, what happens to accountability, right? When you don't have one person that's in charge of giving you a result and answer on something, accountability is gonna just absolutely fall through the cracks. What's that?
Do you your VA and you two, you cross train your VAs?
No.
Okay.
Well, one of them's a manager. She knows she's frustrating.
How many VAs do you have?
4.
4?
Yeah.
So it's just a little fun fact that I've learned. I have about 20 VAs. So just cross train them. Make sure that any VA can do any other VA's job within your organization, because these people are in different countries. They're in the Philippines. The typhoon hits. You lose a VA. I'm sure we've all been through it. The internet, this, that, and then I have like 3 VAs that run comps. That's all they do for my agents. So all they do is very specific. They run comps. So if one goes down, there's 2 more. 2 go down, there's 1 more. And then if that one was to go down, which would really suck, there's another VA that knows how to do it as well. So cross training is really cool. I would sorry to hijack you here.
No.
I would also document everything on Loom. So any SOP, any process, Loom, Loom.
Do you guys do that? Anybody here use Loom?
Not Loom, but it's a video tape. So screen recording.
Screen recordings?
There's Screenomatic, there's Loom. I like Loom. You use Loom too.
Loom is sick. It's like $10 a month.
It's badass.
And click a button, start recording, and send the link over. Super easy. And then you can create files in there.
So like anytime you hire and fire a VA, right? If I have like hundreds of videos in Loom that all these people's jobs are there. So when my other VAs onboard a VA, they just go right through the videos that the other VAs have recorded over the years. So I don't have to worry about, if I fired somebody, I can get somebody on board in 3 days. It's not a problem. Rather than go in and now I got to train this VA and you stop doing what you're doing and you train this VA. You know what I mean? It's already there. It's documented. It's a process that's done once that'll pay you for a very long time.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Now, what we have the stages of the business, right? Now, what does the team look like? Or responsibility? Think roles and responsibilities. Where do they go, right? When you hire, for example, if you're cross-training VAs, which is a great idea, when they switch from one role to the other, they have to be held accountable to that new responsibility, right? Like that's how the machine runs. That's where we have the ability to actually step away from the thing and know that everything's being handled, by checking the KPIs, tracking all that stuff. It's not about getting like super corporate with your business, but it's about holding people accountable and empowering them to do their thing without, having issues of responsibilities falling through the cracks. So this is how I break down my organizational chart, my structure of my employees. So on the sourcing, I have the cold callers. And again, this is texting, cold calling. The main two things that we do for lead generation is cold calling and texting. And I'll share my KPIs right now, just so you can see a trend of what that looks like. We have five cold callers, right? We have five cold callers and a lead manager. So the cold callers they handle the sourcing stage. The lead manager handles the conversion. So they'll source the leads. All they're looking for is interest. Okay, they're not pre-qualifying, they're not running numbers, they're plowing through thousands of records, right? Like, would you like to sell property? Would you like to sell property? We're not having, we're not looking for that magical conversation at the beginning that absolutely grabs your seller and then makes them want to sell the property if they don't need to. Like, it's not that. It's gauging for interest. Somebody's raising their hand, that's what they're doing. If they raise their hand, they go over to my lead manager and she has a pre-qualifying conversation with them. And we pre-qualify based on condition, timeline, motivation, and price. So four pillars, right? The next thing that happens, if they get pre-qualified, they go to my acquisitions. So the acquisitions team is over here. And then that's where, the conversation gets more intense. That's where real rapport is built, right? Okay, tell me about the property. Can you let me, tell me when the last, rehabs or remodeling of the property was done. And then progressively you get to the point where you actually ask about the situation, like what's making you want to sell right now and that sort of thing. So you go through this entire script, right? But that happens in the acquisition stage. The next thing is going to be a disposition. We got a contract locked and your dispo rep works here, right? This is dispo, and then you have transaction coordination as well. So if you have anybody who's doing TC in your team, they're going to be in this stage. This one, acquisition, we have acquisition reps as well. But they have that one role, right? The one role here is to get a contract signed. Now, this is going to be the bulk of the team, right? But you have to measure, you have to track the KPIs. Who's in charge of that? That's going to be the director of operations. And again, it's not about having this big, massive team, right? Just understand, if you're one single person doing the wholesale business, you're going through all of that. You're going through all of that. The more organized you are from the get-go, the easier it's going to be for you to plug people into it. So say that you get bottlenecked and you have a bunch of leads that you need to work and you need to hire somebody to help you close them. You're going to hire somebody for this role, but you're not going to have them do, him or her do stuff over here. It's just, it's a different responsibility. It's a different skill set. It's a different level of training. It's a different pay, for crying out loud. Like this person they can't make the same amount that the co-partners make. Like it's not going to work out, right? So, and then the improvement session really comes down to the responsibility of the CEO. So who's at the head of the company, right? That's how the whole thing is kind of broken down. So here, dispo, acquisitions, manager. That's the organizational chart. Again, it's the roles and responsibilities. Yes.
How exactly do you track your KPIs besides the download?
Ooh, I'm getting there. Okay. So there's different KPIs for each one of the roles, right? And again, one person has to be responsible for the KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. What's going on in your company that you're actually tracking? What are you tracking when it comes to lead generation? So you know that you're being effective and you're not just wasting thousands of dollars in marketing when you have stupid leads, right?
Also, don't over-track KPIs.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that now. There's people that I've watched track like 30 KPIs with no idea what they're doing. I still, to this day, I don't understand it. I've done it too. It's just like, you don't have to go above and beyond. With KPIs, it should just be a very, like, offers is a KPI. How many offers do we make? But I won't get into it here.
Yeah. So this is the overall structure. Again, if you're a single person doing this, you're still going through all this process. Understand what part of the process are you working on. If you wake up in the morning and you're cold calling, you're sourcing leads. All right, during that same conversation, if you hit it off with that seller, you don't have to, send it off to somebody else. You can just pivot on to the pre-qualifying conversation. But understand that you took it from interest to pre-qualifying. Now you have a hotter lead. It's important to recognize that kind of stuff. Why? Because you start tagging the leads. You start tagging the shit that's actually going to move the needle inside your business. All right. From then, of course, you send it over to acquisitions, and then you start getting deeper, getting into that rapport stage. Now, the cool thing about it, we always talk about let's automate and delegate, right? Let's automate. Automation, always thinking, CRMs and the best new software out there. What's the next new trick that I can do to automate and getting into all that stuff? And delegate. Delegate. You have to delegate effectively. If you have one person that's handling multiple responsibilities, you better have your KPIs dialed in. The way that we run it, my lead manager runs the cold callers. I don't run them. I don't talk to them directly. I mean, I do talk to them. We jump on a weekly meeting, but she holds them accountable for the KPIs that they track, right? So she is responsible for the leads that are coming in. At the end of the day, I have one person to ask for the leads. How many leads came in? I don't go to the cold callers. I don't go to anybody else. I go to my lead manager because she's managing them, right? Now, this is a team of 5 people that she runs. And I mean, I'd be going crazy if I'm trying to run 5 people and then figure out the rest of the business, right? Like that would be my entire time would be spent there. So same thing for acquisitions. If you have a good acquisitions manager, they can train and onboard acquisition reps as they come in. Now they're running the team, and you can plug into different markets. You can expand. You can scale that way, right? Why? Because if you need more leads, let's say that we want to tap into Atlanta or Fort Lauderdale and do business rate. So all we do is plug in a campaign, add callers for that, which are going to be run by the lead manager. It's not adding any extra workload here. We're just keeping it in the segments, right? It's easier to scale when you have that picture of business. Does this make sense?
Any questions so far?
Yes.
Just for the co-college, just tracking that was made and leads.
Oh, you're gonna love my scorecard, dude. I'll hook you guys up with a copy of it too, just because you made it in. Sorry, if you're virtual, you're gonna get a copy of the scorecard. All right. So again, the director of operations, whoever's running this role, is in charge of making sure that the scorecard is filled out. We go off of the scorecard. All the KPIs, have to be accounted for. If the KPIs are underperformance, this is when the director of operations jumps in, and okay, what's going on? Let's improve this process, right? So at the end of the day, if you're the CEO, like this is the person that's gonna buy you your freedom. Like as far as management goes, as far as the proficiency of the business, the effectiveness of what's going on, anything. If the improvement brings up an idea of, I don't know, let's tap into this new market. The execution of it goes here. So you have, the typical visionary integrator, type of, relationship, right? But it goes deeper than that. There's a lot of responsibility that falls into this person. But this is the person that's running the KPIs. So let's go back to the one responsibility of each one of the stages. Source is to gauge for interest, right? We're doing interest here. I'm trying to figure out where to write it. And interest in selling. Conversion is pre-qualification. I'll get out of the way here. Sorry to give you guys my bad. Acquire is locking the deal. Dispo is selling the deal. Measuring is KPIs and performance. And then improvement is the direction of the business. These are the main responsibilities of each one of those stages, each one of those roles. So if your cold callers and text messengers and all that stuff, I mean, they're finding interest, like they're doing their job, right? Like that team is performing well.
I thought you wrote it in Spanish. That's what
Yes,
I'm saying.
interés. My Spanish betrays me. I should have given you guys a disclosure. I'll be in the middle of an English conversation and then we'll jump to the other side. So, but yeah, they're doing the role, right? This is how you can identify bottlenecks too. Watch, like check this out. Say that you're sourcing 1,000 leads. I mean, your cold callers reach out to 1,000 people, right? Out of those 1,000 people, 100 say that, you know, they want to, okay, cool, I have interest, right? Now you send 100 over to conversion, right? So get pre-qualified. 100 getting pre-qualified. If those, maybe 10 out of those 100 that became pre-qualified based on condition, motivation, timeline, and price, and, you know, certain other things, now you're talking to 10. Your acquisitions rep is talking to 10 people as opposed to talking to 1,000 people. Like, that's a big problem that happens if you're commingling roles without, you know, the required KPIs. Now, if you don't have deals, it's not going to be an acquisitions problem. It's going to be a lead generation problem. Does that make sense? So, for example, we have a minimum of 50 calls a week. We have them, like, they have to be making 50 calls a week. If they don't have 50 shots a week, like, it's not their issue, right? We go back to, okay, what's going on here in the conversion stage? Are we not pre-qualifying right? Is there something that we're missing, right? But if there's, you know, the number is right on the conversion, the KPIs, we go back to sourcing. Are the campaigns not working? Let's look at the performance of each one of the cold callers. We don't micromanage, but we have the information there to go back and spot check, if that makes sense, right? But this is how you figure out whether or not your bottlenecks are performance-based or attitude-based when it comes to the employees.
Yeah, and also, just to chime in here, if you throttle this down, sourcing too hard, then your conversion is going to get affected. Meaning, if you don't have the bandwidth, does everybody understand what bandwidth is? That's the capacity to take in something. So if you're sourcing 1,000 leads, not leads, but 1,000 people, and you know, in the conversion you can only support 500, you're going to start running behind really quickly, because then you're going to start running into follow-ups, right? Because those 100 are going to turn into 10, which are going to turn into follow-ups, and then the next week there's going to be another 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000. And before you know it, you have 50, 60 follow-ups that now they're following by the wayside, that those need to be nurtured, because that's a lot of profit in there. They're just not converting today. And then you're running into a bottleneck and you're wondering, well, let me just go source more leads. That's not the answer. It's a bandwidth issue.
Yeah, you're missing the deal side, and a lot of times it's, okay, I need more leads, but that's the bottleneck. We just went through this, and it goes the other way around too. Like, if you dump a shit ton of cash into your campaigns, and you generate a bunch of leads, and then, I don't know, you throw, 1,000 instead of 100 to the conversion, now your lead manager is not going to be able to pre-qualify them right? Or if you send 100 over here, and you only have one acquisition rep who's not fully trained yet or whatnot, they're going to get bottlenecked, and you're wasting revenue, which is one of the things that we have to watch out for right now. It's again, expenses is going to be one of the, look at all the software that you guys have, the stuff that you absolutely need, and you have to make cuts. We just went through this process, and we actually got bottlenecked on the acquisition side. We had a bunch of deals on the board, and then we had one of our acquisition guys left, so we were left with a ton of leads. We got bottlenecked there. We had to move quick, and then just adapt to the whole situation. And I mean, it's easier to see where the problem really is when you have it laid out like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. Any questions on that model? And I'm gonna promise I'm gonna do KPIs. All right. So going over to the measuring part. These are some of the KPIs that matter, right? Like the things that we track the closest. We have scorecards that are deeper and more detailed on for example, lead generation. I'll open it up right now. I'll show you guys. But at the end of the day, like, we summarize it. When we have the meeting, we'll look at the lead generation scorecard, and then at the end of the day, we come back and then we look at this. What's going on here? Okay, so what's the total reach? How many people do we try to reach out to? Sourcing, right? Connections. How many people do we actually connect to? You'll see a connection rate. So if you reach out to 1,000, you're only connecting with 30. What's going on? Is it the list? Is it the medium that we're using? Is the platform having issues? What's going on, right? Conversations. That's where the skill set of the people actually making the outbound reach plays in. Leads and prospects. Okay, how many people showed interest, and how many of those became prospects? So these are some, like, this set of KPIs is the stuff that we've been working for years, and we ended up with this as the most important, most refined list of KPIs. Because absolutely, man, you can go in there and you can track 30, 40 KPIs, and now you have a shit ton of data, and you're a professional data collector at that point, and you forget about doing the deals.
That's called mental gymnastics. There's another word for it, but I won't say it here tonight. But it's mental
You're being
gymnastics.
proper tonight?
I'm being proper.
You're being
That's
proper.
because we're on live. But seriously,
There
your
might be
mind,
children watching.
your mind will start to, especially like as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, I'm doing all this work. I'm so busy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you're not being productive. You know, there's a difference between busy and productive. Productivity kicks busy's ass any day of the week. So any entrepreneur that's telling you, I'm working like 200 hours a week, they're not doing shit. And they just don't know it. And I've been there too. You know, we've all been there where you're just going through it and you feel like you're achieving something, but you're not really achieving anything. You're just doing gymnastics in your own head.
It's a really big difference between busy work and actually stuff that moves the needle. Be the whole 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
Focus on that. 20% of the actions that give you 80% of the results. It's big, especially now. We have to get more focused. We have to the way of doing business where you I don't mean you individually. I mean where we just kind of lay back and hope things would click together by themselves. It's too heavy. You end up with a whole bunch of stuff that you're paying, in overhead that you don't need. And right now, like that money better go to marketing campaigns. Right now, it's not a time to stop. It's not really a time to dial back the sourcing, the marketing, and all that. I see a lot of people doing that. Like, no, the times are hard. I'm gonna stop the marketing. Like, fuck no. Everybody's doing that. Everybody's holding back on the marketing. And this is consistency. This is what consistency looks like in terms of marketing campaigns. You don't want to dial it back right now. You just want to continue on with what you're doing, and then stop spending stuff on shit that you don't need to. We use two vehicles for marketing: SMS, text messaging, and cold calling, like I mentioned. These are the KPIs that we track for each one when it comes to the deeper, tracking of the data. And my lead manager, she's responsible for those KPIs. Like I don't go in there and look at the platform as the owner. Now the lead manager does that. It's one of her roles. Right, she holds the team accountable, the cold calling team accountable to these KPIs. The team understands the KPIs. They'll come in, they'll submit end of day reports for software and all that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, like this is what we're tracking. And the cool thing is that you can see trends. You can see, okay, where if we're dropping the ball or if a campaign is not working as well as it was working last month, like what are we doing about it? Who's cold calling here? Cold calling? So you guys see the issue of your numbers going bad, right? How are you tracking that? Like what gives you a red flag that your numbers took a dump last week?
I'm not getting no more leads.
Gut instinct?
No, I do
Well, on the dialer that I have, it tells you, but I know there's a website or something you can submit the phone number that'll test it or something.
No, I mean, you're just going to have a lead count dive.
Yeah, exactly. So trends, that's what they do. When you have KPIs, like this is the measuring part, right? The measuring part, but you use it for that improvement section of it. And this is when we sit down and I'll pick everybody's brain. I'll pick my lead manager's brain, the cold caller's brain, like what's going on? What are you guys seeing in terms of conversations? Are the conversations different than they were, a month ago? Are they more open to negotiating? And they'll give you a really, really good insight of what's happening because they're at the front lines, right? So this is the SMS KPIs that we're tracking. Controlled reach, so how many text messages are we sending out, right? Outbound SMS. How many of those get delivered? That's important because this tells us whether the list that we have is good. The numbers, are they actually legit numbers? Is the quality of the data that we're buying, is that decent? And depending on the provider, you'll see big discrepancies on numbers. Responses, so how many contacts and responses are we getting back? Conversations, follow-ups. We keep we don't send everybody right away into our main software anymore because now we have a bunch of unqualified leads in there. It gets messy, so we keep it clean. They keep going in there until they actually express interest and they're within $50,000 of whatever the Zillow price is. Like it's one of the shifts that we did. That's actually one of the things that we pivoted. We didn't used to do that, and we were getting a bunch of leads, more leads, but they were not. They would make it over to acquisitions. Like this guy wants, $50,000, $100,000 above retail. Like what's going on, right? So we started screening a little better. So they'll stay inside the platform, the SMS platform for a little longer, and then we're also tracking how many were sent to lead gen to get pre-qualified, and then prospects sent to our deals. So that's how many made it over to acquisitions, and how much are we spending on SMS? Right now, you have a budget. You have who's using launch control here? No, from text messaging. Are you guys text messaging? Or no? Yeah. What do you use?
Just our CRM, it's called Close.
Close. Okay. Are you guys sending bulk, like thousands of
Yeah.
text messages? How are you? Is that like the response rates and deliverability? Is that pretty solid?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 20% response rate.
Okay. Cool.
I would look into that though, because launch control, excuse me, I've used a lot of systems and we text about 7,500 people a day. So I found launch control is really, really high deliverability rate. I like it. The interface is cool. And I'm not pitching launch control because I don't get any money for it. Probably should. But
Yeah.
Yeah, launch control is really good. I like their interface. I like what they do. And it's worked out great for us.
The deliverability is solid. I don't know how they're doing it, but their numbers stay healthy for a long time. I mean, you can see the percentages. Deliverability 93%, 96%, 98%. And you know, when we have like different percentages like that, and they bump from 93 to 98, we switch lists. And you'll see it like, oh shit, okay, cool. You change the list, you go from an absentee owner to a code violations list or something. Response rates are 16, 17, 13%. Like what happened here, right? This is solid 8 week. So it's like the numbers will tell you like really, really good stories once you start to actually use them, interpret them. So KPIs for SMS, these are the KPIs we're tracking cold calling.
Quick question, bro.
Yes, sir.
Have you guys ever used Roar for your SMS?
Yeah,
I did.
it's trash.
How about smarter contact?
I used to use it.
Yeah.
I like launch control a lot better.
Yeah, it's better quality.
I had a big smarter contact.
One thing that I like about it too, and this is of course you can take advantage of the bulk because they have a couple of different plans, but you have a fixed budget, man. Like you have one payment a month, and you're not paying for as you go for tax and whatnot. So we have one payment of this is what I'm spending.
Do you know launch control? You're able to have the option to opt to take that opt out option, like the.
I think you do.
Yeah. 13. We have one of the bigger plans, but it's $1,300 a month. Like you pay a month and then you get a budget. So we just make sure that we use the budget, right? But now we have a control on expense. We have, you can almost expect how many leads you're going to be getting on a regular basis.
You can also open multiple accounts. We run multiple accounts that way we can
Right.
run the volume that we want to do. It's no problem.
And again, if you're a solo operation and you're doing this, like you can send a bunch of text messages as a bolt-on and then still be cold calling, right? You still want to build up your skill set and do all that stuff, but it's to us as a bolt-on strategy. We relied a lot on text messaging at the beginning of the year. And man, every time I tell the story, it's like, I don't even have to tell the story. Look, I'll show you. We're like, no, we're doing really good on text messaging. You see this? And then the leads started dropping to nothing.
Was that pre-launch control?
Yeah, pre-launch control. So this is what we stopped text messaging. But what I did, my mistake was that I stopped text messaging and I dialed it back on the cold calling because we're doing so good in text messaging. So we like, no, we're not gonna, let's not spend. I think we left one person in the cold calling, and the lead manager was cold calling, I think, and then all we were doing was text messaging. So this happened. We got fucked. I mean, we got no leads for weeks. Like that was a scary time because we had nothing to work on. It was like, all right. Moral of the story going forward, like we're not going to stop the cold calling. Like that's going to be a fixed thing, and then we're going to have bolt-on strategies. And we've done paid, PPC stuff. We've done direct mail. Direct mail has been a minute, and right now, it's text messaging. But whatever it is that you're doing, you got to track it, for efficiency. You have to just know where your marketing dollars are going. And yeah, I mean,
Is anyone in here doing direct mail? No?
nope. Okay. So marketing spend, response rate, conversion, conversations to lead ratio, like that's kind of some of the KPIs that people get really caught up in. They're nice to know, but at the end of the day, like how much are you spending? What's the cost per lead? What's the cost per prospect and cost per deal? Like those are the main things that we're going to be like looking for. And I'll share this spreadsheet with you guys if you guys want it. So
You notice how this is a numbers game though, right? This whole business is a numbers game. You're not in the real estate business. You're in the marketing business. Your real estate is a byproduct of what you're doing. Does everybody get that? You're buying and selling homes where you're really running a marketing and sales company. That's what this is. I think a lot of people mistake that. I mistaked it for years where I thought I was running a real estate company. I was really running a marketing business that generates me houses. That's what it leads to generate houses.
yeah, so you're gonna end up with leads or prospects to deals ratio, but you also know like, okay, to get one lead, we spent $22.88. Like that's one lead, right? This is the average of the whole year. You want to keep that number as low as possible. Cost per prospect, we're at $36.36. So depending on the week, depending on what happened performance-wise, that number fluctuates, goes up and down. But at the end of the day, you have averages, and like that's the thing that you're following, that you're tracking when it comes to mitigating your expenses.
Can you explain the difference between the lead and the prospect?
Yeah, a lead is going to be somebody who's coming from the sourcing stage. A lead is just interested, like it's not pre-qualified. A prospect is somebody that's been pre-qualified. They made it over to acquisitions, right? So any questions on this?
The blast messaging, you said you do 7,500 blasts a day. How many VAs do you have on that for this rate? And on average, what's your guys' like? I know there's a couple other metrics, but like the throttle for every hour, how many messages are you guys sending on average?
It gets throttled. My lead manager runs it all, but it gets throttled throughout the day. It's not 7,500 outbound because launch control tracks in and out as units. So like if you send out 3,000 and 2,000 respond in, and then you respond back to 1,000, you're going to start eating up at that 7,500. So I think we're probably averaging close to 2,800 a day outbound. Then that generates like another 1,500 back in, something like that. And then you have your conversations back and forth. But we have 3 accounts doing it.
Yeah.
Most of the texting is trash. Right? It's absurd.
It's a lower quality. It's
the lowest quality lead. Okay, let's just talk about that for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But there's different leads and there's different qualities of leads, right? The lowest quality of lead is a text. Just be clear on that. It also costs 2 cents. So it's relative, right? Cold calling is probably a step up above that. And then you have what I would call the higher tier leads, which is like direct mail, pay-per-click, that kind of stuff, right? Bandit signs, if that's still a thing, is probably somewhere between the direct mail and cold calling.
Yeah.
But that's a volume game too. It's very laborious. But if you put out 1,000 bandit signs a week, I guarantee you're going to get deals. I guarantee you're going to get deals. I mean, it's just, the best marketing strategy, and we've talked about this at length, is consistency. I don't give a shit what you do. You can text for the whole year. If that's all you did and you ran it right, I promise you're going to do 20, 30 deals. No way that you're not going to do it. Same thing with cold calling. Same thing with direct mail, right? I hear it all the time. People go to direct mail. I love direct mail, but I get it. It's expensive. People go to direct mail all the time, and they tell me, they're like, oh, yeah, man, I tried direct mail. That shit sucks. Doesn't work. I'm like, oh, what'd you do? How many people did you mail? 5,000. How long did you mail for? 1 month. I'm like, well, you suck. Direct mail doesn't
reminds
suck.
me of, hey, listen, I talked to 10 people last week and we're going to sell.
Yeah, it's like you're not even giving yourself. There's a difference between a marketing strategy not working, and if marketing doesn't work, then you have to dissect that and you have to look back at your data first. What was the channel? What was, for example, direct mail, copyright? Was it a shitty postcard? Was it a letter, right? Totally different quality lead, different seller altogether, different expense, right? But it's a different ROI. So when you break it down like that, you have to be consistent. I always say you should stick to a marketing strategy for 120 days. I don't care what you do. Like if you're going to mail out 10,000 people, you need to have enough of a budget to mail out 40,000 people, 10,000 a month. That's what you should do. If you can float it 10,000 every week and you can, you have the bandwidth to do 40,000 a month, then you should stick for 4 months anyway. But I promise you, year over year, you're going to see results. Marketing, our business is cold calling and texting is a lot quicker, right? It's usually a faster lead, right? Because you put out 1,000 texts, you're going to have a couple hundred people. Now you have interaction, right? Direct mail, if I mail out on a Thursday, I'm not getting calls till Tuesday. Calls come in, it's very slow, it's 1%, less than 1% response rate. Now I gotta talk to them, now I gotta nurture them, right? Blah, 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 blah. That's usually a 60-day window before those leads convert. Of course, you get a direct mail lead sometime and it's a 100K banger. It happens, but you gotta be mailed. What I'm saying is you gotta give yourself enough of an opportunity to have the exposure to be able to have that, that convert.
Makes sense? Cool. Any questions on this? Yes, sir.
As you're talking about cost, what's the typical pay structure for your lead, for your cold calling?
We have the cold callers. They're in all my cold calling team is in the Philippines. They're direct hires. We pay them $5 an hour. They usually get around $2 or $3 an hour over there. Like that's what they get. Even if you hire somebody from the States who's managing them and they charge you 10, they pay them $2 or $3 an hour.
Okay. Any incentives if they return something?
Yeah.
Up?
Yeah, so they have a $100 bonus for the cold callers whenever we lock a deal that's under them and closes. The lead manager gets another $100 bonus because she's managing them. So she has an incentive program to manage and performance, or manage their team and increase performance. And then also an incentive, and I can write it out with the pay structure of the team that I have. But yeah, there's like it pushes them to want more. And it's pretty interesting, man. When you hire, one of the stigmas is that I don't know, people from other places don't have the tenacity. They don't work like we do. Like it's bullshit. They work harder than we do.
They kick our ass. And
Yeah.
And they do. And they're so grateful too for the opportunity, and they really perform well.
They just want to belong to a team. You have them as part of the team. You actually they're not laptops. They're people. They have dreams and desires, and there's stuff that they want to do, and stuff that they want to accomplish. Guess what? They're using you as a vehicle for that kind of stuff. Now, if we own that, we understand as owners that people don't work for us; they work with us, and we're just the vehicle for it. It's going to change the way that you look at business. It's going to change the way that you treat people in your business. And when people see that, now they have buy-in. They have you have loyalty. You have what I mean. It just goes to a whole another level, and it's really cool to see. We've had the question in group calls, hey, what are you looking for next year? Like, what do you desire for next year? And just opening that kind of stuff. It's like leads, boss. Besides, the company stuff. It just creates a really cool environment where people start trusting, each other a lot more. Our lead generation team, the sourcing and converting, it's the most solid part of the entire business, and that's the reason for it. They belong. They know they belong to something.
Guys, you can run a pretty deadly operation with just cold calling and texting.
Yeah.
And I'd venture to say, depends on how much data you're buying. 10 to 15 grand a month, you could run a really, really, really lean, super highly profitable business. You should be kicking out of 1.5 to 2 million on that kind of an operation. Depending on your conversions and what you can do and your access to capital, can you close on them, can you flip them, can you wholesale them, whatever. This market's a little bit different. It's, the return isn't gonna be that great. But yeah, I did 7 figures with my business partner, and it was a 2-man band with 1 VA. We did $1 million, and then the next year we did like 1.6. So that was before we hired everybody. So granted, it was a different market. I think that was like 2019 or something, before the world went to shit. But and people wanted $1 million for every property in South Florida, and they were getting it.
I got another rookie question.
Go for it.
What is VA?
Virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we
Not
see
a rookie
something that doesn't register, let us know.
Yeah, we use a lot of terminology, dude. My girlfriend tells me all the time. She's like, I don't know what ARV is and this and that. I'm like, well, that's after repair value. She's like, why do you got to speak in code? I'm like, oh. It's a lot of terms, Yeah, so virtual assistants, I pull them. I have some in the Philippines. I love Filipino VAs. I will say I'm in South Florida, so my market, almost everybody on my team has to be bilingual because 40% of my business is in Spanish. So if you can't operate in South Florida with Spanish, you're fucked. You're only going to buy 50, 60%, right? With that being said, a lot of my admin roles, quality control, admin, roles, data manipulation, right? Stuff like that is done in the Philippines. And then I have Colombian and Nicaraguan VAs that are going to do more sales driven, cold calling, etc., because they're bilingual. They're a little bit more proficient in sales. Filipinos are by nature, they're more, their roles fit better with even their personality profiles with admin roles. So that I kind of run a hybrid there, and I'll talk about that later.
Perfect. This is how it breaks down, and it's a rough kind of overview of it. I mean, there's a lot more details that go into it, like incentives and pay scales and stuff like that. Christine, is she at?
Oh, the per hour?
Yeah,
5.
she's at 5. It's transaction coordination. I mean, it's really more of a marketing assistant. She handles the marketing campaigns, uploading, and that sort of thing. Transaction coordination is done by Dispo. But this is a basic like pay structure that you can begin with. Cold callers, we have them at 5. I mean, you can do less or whatever. We have them at 5. A lead manager, she's also in the Philippines, so she's at $10 an hour with bonuses and incentives. Acquisitions,
She must be good.
yeah, she
$10
kills
an
it,
hour.
bro. She kills it. Yeah. And she's happy too.
She's been with you a long time?
Yeah, 3.5 years.
Yeah, I have
She
a
started as a
VA.
cold caller.
I have a VA that's been with me for 4.5 years. She probably knows how to run my business better than I do at this point. She makes about the same money. Liddell, she's the best.
Yeah, no, Sheila's the best. So
I'll put Liddell up again. This is my
Bro,
presentation
listen,
tonight. Was her.
Sheila knows kung fu.
You wouldn't.
Can kick Liddell's butt. No, but the point of the story is like that there's a lot of good, good quality work, right?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, a lot of times we have to stretch ourselves to build payroll into what we're doing and that sort of thing. But it's if you do actually what you talked about earlier was a really good point. One thing that we always do, like we always document. If you document in video form, now you have training protocols. If you start creating video training protocols for each one of the stages, each one of the roles, then guess what? You're gonna end up with this really cool automation in your business. When you hire, it used to take me about 3 months to train an acquisitions rep. I mean, we got to the point where it takes 30 minutes of my time, and that's because they jump on a Q&A call with them. But they go through the videos, they go through negotiation, they go through accountability calls with the acquisition manager and that sort of thing. So it's a process, it's a model, right? But that happened because I was documenting as I went along with the process. So, but yeah, this is a basic pay structure that you can do it. Before I wrap this up, I wanna just kind of mention a few things. We were at a mastermind call a couple of days ago. Lee Arnold hosted it, yeah. And he actually put this out. I hope he doesn't mind I'm sharing about this. But this is coming.
Sorry, Lee.
Yeah. He's a giver, I don't think.
No.
So, but it's these are 20 things to keep in mind as we go through this new stage that we're in. We're in the middle of a transition, right? This is stuff that we have to take seriously as we try to mitigate the risk, as we try to talk to people who we're doing business with, as we try to empower our employees and do more with the same stuff that we have in place, right? One of the biggest things that and this is done through a couple of different studies and as far as what's going on, what's really creating issues, communicating with employees. If you're the owner of your business and nobody knows where the business is going, it's going to create uncertainty, and once you have uncertainty and that seed is planted there, it's like poison for everything else. So even if it's you and one VA, all right. Talk to them about, okay, you don't have to disclose, right, the details of the entire business plan, but give them a sense of direction. Like, this is, okay, listen, this is what we want to do. We want to get to a point where we're doing 3 deals consistently a month, and we're going to be working towards that for the next 6 months. Let's make that happen, right? Now you have a common interest, you have a common goal. They know what to expect from you. So communicating with your employees, increasing the marketing, it's actually one of the things that's going to be the most effective. I know it sounds rhetorical, but it's everybody, when people are dialing it back, your marketing dollars go a lot further. Let's keep that in mind.
And your conversion.
Yeah. Adjusting pricing is one of the other things that I wanted to talk about. When we're making this is another pivot that we did in terms of offers. So you have the standard 70%. If you're in the wholesale, the 70% formula, right? Raise, show hands. Okay. So basically it goes like this, right? You figure out the ARV, the after repair value of a property. How much is it worth in the market? Then you multiply that times 70%. You take away, whatever amount of repairs it needs, minus your fee, right? And that's going to be your offer price to the seller.
Let's stop. Sorry, let's stop there for a second because I saw you were looking for a second. So right now it's 70%. Okay, this is a new market. 6, 7, 8 months ago, I was underwriting at 80, 85% in Miami because it's so fucking crazy. Okay, right now I'm underwriting at 65 to 70%, and even then I'm like, ooh, I'm shitting my pants. So, because I just don't know, you know, there's price reductions everywhere. But anyway, just that's the best formula to use.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, man. I mean, 6 months ago, when you lock something at 80, okay, what are you locking deals at? 82%. That means 82% minus fees, minus repairs, minus, you know, the wholesale profit, right? 82% went down to 80%, and they're like, oh, it's getting tighter, 78, 75, 70%. Right now, we brought it back to 65%. So, but if you well, one of the things that we did was, if you keep it at the 70% rule, we're shaving just out of the gate, we're shaving 10% off of the ARV. So if a property is worth $400,000, to us, in our eyes, it's worth 360. We just take away 10%, all right? And then from that number, from that 360, we do the 70% rule. So you end up with a really aggressive offer. But it's better to lock something up like that and figure out where else can you come in and help the seller, right? Can you help them relocate? Can you help them with, because they, you know, it's a hoarder house and they have no idea what to do with the things, right? Maybe they feel like you're more honest than the last guy that talked to them. That's, you know, what's gonna, you know, solve their issues. Maybe they need more time. They need somebody to be patient with them. But it gives you the opportunity to dig into that space a little better. Yes, sir.
You're shaving 10% off right off the bat because of the instability in the market, or because of the hard money going 10% down?
The average value is dropping. Well, it was dropping at a 2.7% month. So you know, the property values were declining at 2.3. This is nationwide. 2.7. Some areas that were declining higher, some areas that were declining lower. And how long does it take for a rehab to usually, you know, be bought, fixed, and then put up on the market? 3 to 4 months, right? So by the time the buyer sells, if that trend continues, which is what we have to see it like, if that trend continues, like they lost 10%. So that's where that was coming from.
No, yeah, we don't factor in. So the formula already factors in whether a buyer is going to buy with hard money or whatever. That's really buyer's discretion. You know, that's something that they have to factor into their costs whenever they buy. I mean, hard money lenders are fine. I personally enjoy working with cash money buyers more than the hard money lenders type buyers, because the guys that buy at auction are your best buyers by far. First time home buyers for flippers too, not FHA. I just mean first time flippers, the best. They typically pay more. Respectfully, they don't really know what they're doing, so they're a little bit more gung ho, rather than the guy that's been doing this since 2008 and had his ass burned on 30 properties. You know, ask me how I know. I hate it. I hate
Ask me how I know.
Hate's a very strong word, but I really dislike rehab, and I'll talk about that tonight. Those are two completely different business models.
But you've moved away from that. You're just assigning that.
I started at assignments, and then I got into rehabbing because I thought it was a natural progression of things, which it kind of is, but it's a totally different business model. People, I think the big mistake that people make is that you get into wholesaling, you wholesale, you make some money, and then you finally come across a deal. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do this, because there are some deals that I've come across where I'm like, it's $100K net, I'm going to take it down. Why am I going to give the other guy, right? Today, if you ask me today in my life, if I had I did it the other day, I had the opportunity to net 100K on a flip or assign it for 50K today. I took the 50K, and the buyer was like, fucking idiot. I'm like, no, you're an idiot, because you're going to get caught with the market. I'd rather have cash today is what I'm saying. And he might not. I hope that it goes well for him. But what I'm saying is I value time. The time value of money is more important to me today than 100K 4 or 5 months from now, with the opportunity of the city fucking me, or the market fucking me, or somebody else. You know, it's just, and then that business model has 273 steps of rehab. A wholesale has about 63. So by complexity already, it's 4 times more complex. And then you got to deal with 30 people to get that house to where it needs to go. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry, that was a
Yeah, no, we paused. I mean, we're actually looking at a property in Mesa, but it's one of those things that, you know what, let's just work. The deal is there. There's enough available for the wholesale, and then for the end buyer also, if they want to come in and do their thing, right?
Just wholesale.
But there's, well, that's my model. Yeah. Right now, like I'm not buying anything to flip until probably maybe Q2. Yeah. So
Unless it's a stupid deal. I mean, there's still deals out there that come across.
yeah.
Of course, it's all relative, right? But it's all relative too to how liquid you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So on the adjusting pricing, I mean, that's one of the things that we're doing when it comes to getting aggressive on the offers, but also, think creative, right? If you can't be a one-trick pony, like you mentioned at the beginning, if you're not locking up the deal as a wholesale, okay, what terms can you facilitate as a creative financing deal? Are you going to break down innovations right now, which I think is one of the things that are going to be leading the way for the next maybe years. So inventory management, if you lock something up too expensive and you're spending way too much time trying to move it, either go back or renegotiate. Like don't dangle the sellers around because they get pissed off. Then they're not going to want to work with you at all. But if you see that your property is not going anywhere, you lock it as a wholesale, go back and renegotiate as a creative finance deal. See if you can do something there, right? Present different options. Think about options, not necessarily just dropping stuff. And at the end of the day, like our main goal is to really give them a solution for whatever issue they're having with the house. If they didn't have a problem, they wouldn't be coming to us, right? That's why it takes us so many people to go through to find a deal for us. But if they didn't have a problem, they wouldn't be coming to us. Figure out how you can solve that. And if you have something that you locked it up too high, you locked it up months ago, it happened to us. We had to drop a bunch of deals a couple of months back because we locked them with pre-June 15th pricing. And I was like, shit.
Trading ARBs.
Yeah, exactly. So
and we'll get into comps in a second. How you should run your comps right now. Okay, nobody that leaves this room should be running comps with 6 months back.
Yeah.
Leaving this room. Nobody.
Cost reduction. Look at stuff that's that you have that's killing your overhead. Things that you don't need, just dial it back. I mean, if it's not absolutely essential, keep that overhead low. Like right now, it's more important than ever. I mean, we're gonna have I think we're gonna have dry season. It's gonna take longer for deals to come in and then sell. And then the spreads are gonna be smaller. Like they're just gonna be smaller. We're not gonna be seeing as many big fat juicy deals as we were seeing before. And again, this is a transition. It's a period. Whoever makes it over to the other side of this whole mess, I mean, it's gonna be in a really, really good spot. Mark my words. Problem identification when it comes to KPIs is the same thing that we're going over right now. You still track your efforts, track everything that you're doing, and have intentional sessions with yourself. Like if you're a solo operation, it doesn't matter. Ask yourself, okay, what am I doing that is not really moving the needle forward? It's time to stop fucking around with stuff that doesn't make sense, right? We have to get real with ourselves. We have to be more applied, more organized when we run the wholesale stuff, because it's not gonna be as easy. We have to reach a lot more people. We're gonna be tighter, so the cost per lead and all that stuff is gonna be increasing a little bit. With affordability getting harder, we are going to see stressed sellers, but then we're going to see buyers who are reluctant to buy. So the problem is not really going away. It's just shifting from the seller side to the buyer side. There's still going to be challenges in place. How we shift that's going to be the money maker. So does this make sense? Everything I covered? All right. Any questions on the business model, the wholesale business model?
I have questions.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask you that.
All right.
Nobody has questions, really? Nothing at all?
Yes.
I was wondering, since you were kind of talking about your VAs and whatnot, obviously culture is huge when you're running a team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, besides like the not work for us, but with us, besides that, what actually do you do for culture within your business?
Culture is what your people think of the company when you're not looking. So how well do they perform for the business? Do you have to micromanage the company or the team all the time so they perform, or they actually are they thinking about, okay, cool, how can we collectively become better, right? So it's really like the overall brain of the company. That's really what culture is, how the company thinks. But as far as building that up, yeah, there's different things that play into it. So me understanding, as the leader of the company, understanding that people work with me, not for me, it's a big thing for me. It's more of a me thing than for them, right? However, people pick up on it. And it's like, okay, cool, we're part of a team. We're all in this together. So that's going to create buy-in. Another thing, and we've actually kind of, dropped the ball on this over the last, few weeks. But we have, I love talking about the top threes. We have, during the meetings, we would always talk about top three personal priorities. And this is tapping into like their personal priorities. Okay, what are your top three personal priorities? Like top three things that you wanna do for yourself. It's got nothing to do with the business. And it's really cool when people start sharing, right? Like, well, I mean, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, or I want to travel, I want to do this, I want to do that. But now you're getting more personal. In business, we're always talking about the transactional stuff. Unless you're in a meeting or you go to lunch, for example. Who was here last night at Max's event? All right. So here, it was all business, right? We're talking, exchanging, whatever. What happened when you guys went over to the restaurant? You started having conversations. You met the person, right? That was in front of you, not the business owner or the entrepreneur. You met the person, right? It's important to meet the people in the business. What do they want? The human capital side of things. And that's what that does, right? Like now you're both in, like Sheila, she wanted to build a house. Like her dream was to build a house. And this is, a couple of years ago, it was like, all right, cool, we're gonna keep it as one of your top three. So we became this bouncing board for her. Like, how are you doing? How are we doing with the house? Like, as far as savings, as far as the progress. And then, I gave my down payment for the house, and I gotta pay because you have to pay the entire house in the Philippines to move in. Like, they don't get in debt like we do. Like, you have to buy the house first, and then they'll give you this like skeleton of a house, and then you still have to put, the rest of the stuff in. Anyways, the whole process. But she was super excited, and then it was like we had the opportunity, Renee and I, to go through that entire process with her and see how she was doing, right? But we would cheer her on, through the process. We would do bonuses, and whenever by merit, right? Intentionally to help her get to that particular top three. What happens? She's already been a fan of the company. She's like, what do you want for Christmas? Leads. Like it's but that's what it is. I mean, it's really the human side. It's not that complicated. All we gotta be is humans.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. But there's another side to the culture conversation. That's the positive, beautiful, nice side. Culture also has a bad side, which is when you have one employee or a member of the team or whatever you want to call it that is negative or doesn't agree with the vision or hasn't bought in or is always complaining, right? You need to get rid of that person immediately. It's like a cancer. I'm serious. You need to cut it out like a plastic surgery. Like you just need to get it out very, very quickly. And that's something that we've done, I think, a really good job at in our company. When people start getting that way, we have a conversation with them, we address it, we try to see if it's like a temporary issue, but you'll know. Your gut will tell you, and you just see people doing the same thing again and again and again. And what happens is that it permeates and it goes through like your team. And then now you got a problem because you got a little mutiny on your hands. And they all feel like, we're gonna rise up, because like this person was negative and now they're buying into that vision. So that's the other side of culture. You have to be very, very sure. Like you have to protect your culture. So,
yeah, because I know for the most part for VAs and stuff, the turnover rates are kind of high. And you guys are doing something right if you guys have VAs for more than
the retention is there. They stay with us for a long time. I mean, we do get rid of some, but when we do that, Sheila has a list of people that are ready to jump in, and our turnover rate is not that bad.
It's also too, you got to remember, man, it's all relative. Like, yes, we do have that now, but for me, it's been 6 years, of making. I've been through God knows how many VAs, Now I have a really good, consistent. The thing with VAs and the key that I've learned is once you catch a really good VA, hold them, pull them in, make sure that you incentivize that person because they're rough. They're not easy to find. So when you do, make sure that you capture them, keep them long term, and then you can build around that VA. And then your VAs will eventually move up where they can manage your VAs. And then they have a certain culture within their own culture of VAs where like they respect one another. You know what I mean? And if there's a position of power, they're going to be very respectful of that within that. So you kind of have like your own hierarchy within the company, Yeah.
They care about stuff that they build too, so bring them into that process. Opinion-wise. So, any questions on this before we move on to your next presentation?
I'm gonna use the bathroom first.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's take a quick little 5-minute break, kind of reset, stretch, then we'll come back and then talk innovations and dive deep into the rest of the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, one mic? Okay.
No, I have this is